You're telling me we don't know what the hell these drones are in New Jersey are? Is that correct?
That's right.
It's crazy. I mean, that's crazy. That's madness that we don't know what these drones are.
Is it allowed for a law enforcement officer who has probable cause to detain you or arrest you? Is it allowed for him to strike you in order to effect that arrest? Yes, of course he can. Is there a law against me crashing my car into yours purposefully? Yes, there is. But Mr. Jones, are you familiar with the pit maneuver? Of course, law enforcement has been using this for decades.
There is not any truth to that. There is no Iranian ship off the coast of the United States, and there's no so-called mothership launching drones towards the United States. So at this time, aware of those drone sightings that have been reported, at this time we have no evidence that these activities are coming from a foreign entity or the work of an adversary. We're going to continue to monitor what is happening, but at no point were our installations threatened when this activity was occurring.
Can you rule out that these are American drones or U.S. military drones?
These are not U.S. military drones. Again, this is being investigated by local law enforcement. What our initial assessment here is that these are not drones or activities coming from a foreign entity or adversary.
Representative Jeff Van Drew, who is a Republican from New Jersey, was just on the air saying that Iran launched a mothership probably about a month ago that contains these drones, and that mothership is off the coast of the east coast of the United States. Is there any truth to that?
There is not any truth to that. There is no Iranian ship off the coast of the United States, and there's no so-called mothership launching drones towards the United States.
This is very much like the information required to be broadcast by manned aircraft, and which is now required under FAA's remote ID regulation to be broadcast by drones as well. And we use this information to further investigate when a crime involving a drone is suspected. As required in current law, DOJ would continue to have guidance that contains explicit protections for privacy and civil liberties and associated training. And state and local law enforcement, if empowered to engage in this activity, would be required to adhere to the same rules. I appreciate the opportunity to testify today and be happy to answer your questions.
I thank the witnesses for their opening statements. Members will now be recognized by order of seniority for 5 minutes of questioning. An additional round of questioning may be called after all members have been recognized, and also knowing that we have a second panel. I now recognize myself for 5 minutes of questioning. Let's just start with current events, and I'll ask an open-ended question. What is going on in New Jersey?
So, sir, the FBI and our Newark field office, along with the state and local partners there, are
or the Bureau is actively investigating the situation you mentioned, just the unexplained sighting of drone activity over that part of New Jersey, including proximity to sensitive sites and areas of concern. So we do not attribute that to an individual or a group yet. We're investigating, but I don't have an answer of who's responsible for that, of one or more people that are responsible for those drone flights.
The rights of the sovereign state to authorize their own state and local law enforcement to use existing technologies and emerging technologies in a law enforcement capacity. Mr. Wiegmann, is it against the law for one American to strike another American? Yes, it is. It's not a trick question. Is that against the law?
Obviously it
Yes,
depends on the context. There could be
of course,
self-defense,
there's a
whatever,
general
but
law against
generally,
that.
yeah.
But is it allowed for a law enforcement officer who has probable cause to detain you or arrest you? Is it allowed for him to strike you in order to effect that arrest? Yes, of course he can. Is there a law against me crashing my car into yours purposefully? Yes, there is. But Mr. Jones, are you familiar with the pit maneuver? Of course, law enforcement has been using this for decades. We use our vehicle to crash into a suspect vehicle in a particular manner reflective of our training in order to effect the arrest. We're using the current training standards and the technology of our vehicle that we have deployed to effect that arrest. That's not a vehicle crash. It's a law enforcement action. That's broadly known. Everyone knows it's against the law for one American to shoot another one. But a law enforcement officer, in order to effect arrest, if he needs to escalate to lethal force, we know a law enforcement officer has that authorization through federal and state laws. So, yes, there's plenty of laws. You guys love to cite these laws that exist so we cannot intercept an aircraft. We understand that. But if intercepting the aircraft is a law enforcement action, which using existing technology to mitigate against an unmanned aerial threat, Mr. Chairman, these technologies exist, and absolutely our local and state law enforcement entities should have access to the same technologies that we seem to be very protectively reserving for only select federal agencies. So, Mr. Jones, you had stated earlier, good sir, and thank you for wearing the badge, my brother. You had stated earlier that yes, you're deploying these systems, but please clarify for America that there are great restrictions on actually deploying the technology to land a drone. You're using the technologies primarily to track criminal drones, but you're not using that technology primarily to land drones, which is what the technology does. Am I correct in that assessment or not, Mr. Jones?
Well, both are true. We are using technology to track the drones. We are also using technology and electronic means to intercept and land the drone at a place of our discretion.
And give us the numbers by percentage. If you track 100 drones, how many are you landing?
Well, like I stated earlier, for FY24 Southwest border, we actually landed 60 of them, mitigated 60 of those aircraft.
60 of the 45,000 that you encountered? Well, there you go. That's what I'm saying. You're using the technology to track, but you're not using the technology to fully mitigate. So this is what we've been talking about for a year, Mr. Chairman. This technology, by 10th Amendment right, belongs to the sovereign states, and they should be allowed to fully deploy it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield.
Gentleman's time has expired. Chair recognizes the gentleman from Texas, Mr. Gonzalez.
Thank you, Chairman. And, sometimes I feel like I'm in the twilight zone up here. Like month after month, people come before us, they testify, and you don't get a lot of answers. And it's concerning, it's frustrating. You're telling me we don't know what the hell these drones are in New Jersey are? Is that correct?
That's right.
It's crazy. I mean, that's crazy. That's madness that we don't know what these drones are. You're telling me that a lot of these, Mr. Jones, you're telling me that 90%, 95% of these drones along the U.S.-Mexico border, we can't interact because they're not in U.S. territory?
That is correct. A large proportion of them stay in foreign airspace.
I'll tell you what, there are a lot of Americans that are very frustrated right now that are essentially questioning, where are my taxpayer dollars going? You know, this Doge craze that's kind of starting to take hold, this is very real. I mean, this is going to come. People are going to have to come before the carpet, and they're going to have to explain every single line item. What do you do here? What does this get? And so let me ask a very specific question. Mr. Wheeler, how much of the FBI budget goes towards counter-UAS?
So the technical part of operational budget that I have within the critical incident response groups, just less than 500,000.
500,000? That's nothing. Well, why is it so low?
Well, I don't.
And I wonder we don't know what the hell is going on. 500,000.
So that number doesn't capture the FBI Newark investigation, for example. The budget allocation for what we're doing investigatively is not captured in that number, but for the technology we use and the way we deploy it, just under 500,000.
We want to help you. I mean, this is a committee. The chairman's putting this together because we want to know these topics. So the American people deserve to know the truth on this, and we also deserve to have actions on it. And if it's a budget issue, no problem. But it's also what is our money getting us? Clearly, not a whole lot. And something needs to change, though. I'm trying to figure out what that something is. It just, month after month, it's the same old, same old. From a CBP standpoint, Mr. Jones, do you know what the current budget of CBP is for counter-UAS?
I can tell you that direct appropriations for counter-UAS was zero last year.
Zero. So,
CBP
yeah.
took it out of Hyde, and we will continue to take it out of Hyde. Now, I can't tell you exactly what that number is. I have a general ballpark, but we can discuss that. I provide that as a get back to you.
Another committee that I sit on is appropriations. So I see a lot of things through the lens of dollars and cents. If you're putting zero on the board, you're probably not going to get a lot of success. And it's not fair. A lot of people talk about the border. I represent the border, nearly half of the southern border. I've been out there with these agents in the middle of nowhere that are essentially alone and unafraid, making do with what they have. It's not fair to them, and ultimately it's not fair to us to have them combat against some of these drones that are happening with a zero budget. I mean, it's just madness.
These drones over New York and New Jersey, flying over critical infrastructure, flying over some of whether it's the Verrazano Bridge or others. I mean, I have to agree with my colleagues. The fact that we continue to say that we don't know what they are, we don't know what they're doing. I mean, the American people are looking at us and they think that we're lying to them because they think, how could you possibly not have answers to drones flying over some of the most critical airspace in the country? So, I mean, if we're expecting the American people to believe in the information that we're giving them, I think we do need to do better. And that's none of your fault. I mean, the fact that there's only $500,000 in drone expenditures appropriations, I mean, that's absolutely insane. And I hope that it's something that my colleagues work on. But as many have already pointed out, drones continue to rapidly advance and become more readily available. Along with the expansion, threats from drones being used by bad actors have only increased, as all of you have mentioned. Right now, counter-UAS authorities are restricted from local law enforcement agencies, leaving it largely in the hands of federal agencies. So, Mr. Wigman or Mr. Wheeler, very simple questions. Do federal agencies have the ability to assist local law enforcement agencies with their counter-UAS capabilities everywhere and every time it's needed?
Not today. That's what we're seeking from the Congress.
Yep.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct.
Are there events and places that would benefit from counter-UAS capabilities that federal agencies are simply not able to cover?
Absolutely, there are.
Yes.
All right. In your submitted statement, you both said, quote, "We need to empower state, local, tribal, and territorial law enforcement agencies across the country, which are primarily responsible for keeping our citizens safe at the local level, to take the steps needed to protect their communities from the emerging threat." This past year, right in my district, in the middle of my district in Nassau County, we hosted the 2024 International Cricket World Cup, including the India-Pakistan match. While there were drone-related threats from ISIS ahead of the tournament, the federal government was only able to assist with their counter-UAS capabilities for a small portion of the tournament. What is the current impact of local law enforcement not having these authorities? And I'll leave that to any of you.
Well, I think that's the main thing, is the capacity. We need more capacity to be able to do the mission, and we strongly support state and local jurisdictions having that capacity and the authority and the ability to help.
Right. And I think I'm sorry, Mr. Woodman, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, that's right. And just to answer your question also, Mr. Congressman Gonzalez as well. I mean, I think all of us on the panel share your view that we need to do more and more resources. If we do get the authorities, we will certainly need more resources. Right. Even if state and locals are doing it, that will require training and additional work and approval on our end. So more resources, more authorities, those are all things that we would support.
Yeah, and I think it's important to point down and to spread the message, because I think there's a lot of false information being spread about law enforcement agencies trying to say that, well, they don't want this added enforcement. They don't want to take on this responsibility. I mean, we had a hearing in this room just hours ago where the commissioner of the Nassau County Police Department, Patrick Ryder, was here, and he has been advocating in his position as commissioner, as his position as a member of the Major City Chiefs, that this is something that local law enforcement agencies, not only do they need it, they want it.